Hello, dear listener. Hello, dear viewer. Hope that you're doing very, very well indeed. You might be thinking, why on earth has he not kicked in with the usual jingle? Well, this is no usual podcast. As you can see, I've got Mr. Alan Wilson, a bona fide Stag legend on screen, joining me as ever. Evening, Al.
Evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Now, Al, obviously, last weekend, Wrexham away. We're not even going to bother talking about that because I don't know about you, international break. I don't really care about the here and now. Do you?
No, not really. I'm just focusing on other things.
Yeah, and the clue is a little bit in A, the name of the episode, which is appearing in your feeds right now, and B, the shirts which we're both wearing. Now, we're not going to stand up and show both of the shirts in full view because Alan's words to me before we started were, this shirt's a little tight, but you can tell from the shirt that Alan's wearing that it's from a certain era, isn't it, Al?
Yes, it is. The promotion era, I do believe, Craig.
Indeed. And the one I'm wearing also is from the Football League era. All right, not a very memorable Football League era, but a part of progress where somebody returned, and that's very significant for today's one. Plus, don't tell anyone, but I haven't got a shirt from the conference day. So if anyone's selling any for cheap, Christmas is coming up. Cheers. We'll talk more about that later. No, we are here to do something we've never done before in Mansfield Matters history. We've done lots of these episodes, these Stag Stories episodes, but Al, we've never done one completely and utterly live to share with our viewers and our listeners, have we?
No, and it's nice to have a legend with us for the first one.
Absolutely. And that's not just Alan talking about himself. Now, Al, this is all down to you because I know that you and our guest, who is, of course, Matt Green, you can tell by the episode title, you go back a very long way. You know, you used to love shouting goal scorer for the Stags, Mansfield Town's number 10, Matt Green. And this all came about a few weeks ago, didn't it? Tell us how we've ended up at this point doing Stag Stories live with a legend that is Matt Green.
Well, when I found out that it was Mark Stevenson had messaged me and let me know that I'd got to introduce him out onto the pitch before the game. And I said, oh, that would be great. So I got in touch with him. So I'm still in touch with Matt. And I said, it'd be nice for a catch-up beforehand. He said, no problem. So once we'd been down on the pitch and we shook hands and had the photo, I just mentioned to him while I was on the pitch, I said, it would be nice if we got you on Mansfield Matters, you know. And he said, just let me know where and when, and I'll be there. So that was how it came about.
And then the international break interrupted our progress again. We were thinking, let's leave it till Christmas and do a nice Christmas episode. Then the international break provided a very good opportunity, and here we are. We might get some more of the Mansfield Matters panel joining us later on in the show. But for now, it's just me, Alan, and a very special guest who goes by the name of Matt Green. And we can't just do a dry introduction. We can't just go, welcome Matt, and put his camera on and say hello to him. We need to do something proper. We need to do something strong, something which, you know, encapsulates a legend that he is. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop the graphic on screen. And ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to say anything to Matt, ask any questions, get him involved, get in the comments right now and get involved and have your say on your team. Any questions you want to ask, we'll try and get through them tonight. For now, though, let's set the scene, shall we? There are many significant days in one's lives, the birth of a child, wedding anniversaries, etc. But how about this one for you? The 22nd of July, 2011. It's the day that Stag secured the services of a striker on loan from Oxford United. Insignificant? No, because that bit of transfer business by then boss Paul Cox would solidify, there's the bell, the foundations of a team that would grow from strength to strength and start a love affair with a man that would last a lifetime. Now, you should never fall in love with a lone player. So by the time January 2012 came around, the Stags ensured no heartbreak would follow as that loan move became permanent with an 18-month deal. Fast forward to the end of that 18 months, and whilst tears of sorrow sobbed as our love departed for pastures new, tears of joy were wept too as Mansfield Town had made it back to the Football League, and the Kingsmill maternity ward prepared for January 2014 and the birth of several little ones to be named Matthew. Love, though, is a funny thing, and sometimes, like Oliver Twist, you want more. And so, in the summer of 2015, the warm embrace of happiness welcomed home our hero as we settled in for 2 more years of joy. Across 2 spells, this man made the number 10 shirt his own and wrote himself into the club's history books, becoming the 7th top scorer in the league and cup with 86 goals and the leading talisman since the turn of the millennium. This Christmas, when you're playing those games where you must draw whatever word you have on a card, if you get the word legend, simply draw Matt Green. Tonight we hear from the man himself, how he fell in love with Mansfield Town Football Club, helped its rise back into the Football League, and how after a tough 2 years away, that love reignited a fire within himself again. It's a tale of friendship, desire, highs, lows, love, hate, and moments that will never die. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Stag Stories with the legend that is Matt Green.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And I'm delighted to say that Matt joins us live on the show now. Greenie, great to see you. First and foremost, just how are you? It's been sort of, it feels like so long, but also it's only been a couple of weeks since we saw you face at One Call Stadium. But how are you doing?
I'm very well. I've just got to say, wow, that introduction is, made me very proud. So thank you for that. I do really appreciate that. I don't think anyone's said that to me before. So no, thank you for the introduction. But I genuinely, I'm very well, fit, healthy, and in good spirits.
Good. It's really good to see. It's. Do you know what? We've said this a lot on the podcast, and we've been quite critical of the club in some ways, not in a negative way, but just in a way in which sometimes when players leave, they don't often get invited back. And the actual truth in it actually is from a man you'll know quite well in Stuart Watkiss, who was, of course, the assistant at Eastbourne with Muzz. We invited him back a couple of years ago now for a live night. Him, Neil Richardson, his old assistant, and Andy White to do a celebration of the last side that won promotion in the Football League. And that was the first time he'd been invited back to the club. And we were thinking that's a real shame. So we're so glad that the club has now started this role. And even though, you got a couple of minutes on the pitch, what was it like just to walk out and get that reception? Because it just shows that people's memories never fade.
I know that was... I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how things would kind of work out. It was a bit last minute, as Al mentioned earlier about catching up beforehand and things like that. But it was absolutely amazing, to be honest with you. I had the best memories of my life at Mansfield Town. It's a short-lived career, so to still be recognised and people to still remember, what I done, and that era that we had as a team. It was very humbling, and it just, as I said, it emotionally it probably hit me a little bit more on the way home, actually, because I'd done a podcast last week, and I sort of, I reiterate how I felt there. It was a bit like, oh my gosh, this club, it's meant so much to me. I was one of the players that was genuinely playing for the badge. Funnily enough, I could go back early in my life and say that my mum always used to call me the stag of the family. That's true. So it's funny, you end up at the Stags, and it's like, you end up doing really well for a team like that. And it was emotionally, really, it hit me more so than anything, because again, I know a lot of people in the town, everyone behind the media staff to the person that makes the burgers on a Saturday. Like, literally back then we were all really close. It was it's almost like a friendship. Football's changed a lot now, so it's again absolutely humbling and warming to have that massive high. To be honest with you, I was on a massive high after people give me that sort of ovation. So and Al welcomed me in and his kind words as well. Again, it all just kind of hit me later on. I think that evening, actually, I know it was an early kickoff, but on the way back home, it all kind of hit me and goes, oh my gosh, wow, that was an amazing moment.
It must have been sort of surreal later on in the game, because obviously it was a great game to watch as well. Obviously, two of your former clubs, seeing Mansfield progress so far, but then Mansfield score in the second half, and you've got the voice of Alan Wilson going goal scorer for the Stags. Mansfield tells number 19 Lee Gregory, and in your mind you're going, please for one last time say number 10 Matt Green.
Literally, I was just like, and you know, I put a little bit out on social media again, like just like I had to sort of thank out the amount of times, you know, that, you know, it's kind of like running through my head all the way home. I was like, Matt Green, like he just done it absolutely amazing. He nailed it, you know. And, the amount of times, bless him, he's probably had to say it as well.
I'm going to say I've had plenty of practice, Matt, to be fair.
Yeah, I'll give you that, Al. You have, to be fair, but you absolutely nailed it. And you know, it's again just flood back loads of memories, loads of good emotions, to be honest with you. And yeah, absolutely brilliant day. Brilliant to come back to the club and see it in such a positive state, as I've said all along as well.
Now, we're all going to delve back in time very, very shortly indeed. We're going to go back to 2011, 2012, when you arrived at the club, and talk through all of those highs, lows, some of the funny stories behind the scenes, all of that sort of stuff. But before we do that, there's a couple of things that I want to touch upon. Obviously, you were invited back for the Birmingham game. Yeah. And I know that Mansfield is a very big part of your heart since leaving the first time, let alone the second time. And you've watched us go through the leagues. And I was listening to your interview on From the Club. Go and watch that, by the way, because it's a great insight into Matt's wider career as well. It's a fantastic one. They've got ones with Adam Murray and, of course, Uncle Stephen as well. So go and watch that. But in that, you were sort of talking about how Mansfield have progressed. Just tell us from your point of view what it's been like watching Mansfield progress over the last 3-4 years or so, especially since Nigel Clough has come in. You must be so proud to see Mansfield now competing at a good level and potentially pushing on to the Championship, but at the same time thinking, God, I wish I still had a shirt.
Oh yeah. I think I never played for a club after Mansfield that it felt 100% right, you know. Obviously you're a professional footballer and you've got a duty to do, but the Mansfield fans, they're special fans, you know. They really get behind, and do you know what I was buzzing with as well, you know, the last couple of seasons is the away fans, like were the best in League Two, and they're competing with the big clubs again this season in terms of attendance. And obviously they're coming out in their numbers to their home game. But obviously going back 12 years ago, Mansfield wasn't as big a town as what it is now. And, you know, there was obviously less people, and, you know, it's all very connected now, you know. So yeah, like I guess there was you know, back then there was it was more spread out. You had Notts Forest, obviously Forest, and then you had, you know, Notts County. And Mansfield were always kind of like the smaller club. No one really, you know, Mansfield, you know. But you know, we soon put them on the map, and the amount of times we smacked the life out of Notts County when I was playing for them, it was brilliant. It kind of we surpassed, you know, a lot of clubs that were potentially bigger than us.
Absolutely, we did, and there were great times as well. Now let's go back then to those times, because obviously you were already established as a well thought of striker in the lower leagues, especially at conference level. You'd had a good spell at Oxford United where you'd become a fan's favourite. Obviously, you got them, played a big part in getting them back into the Football League, and for whatever reason, just could not get that starting berth at Oxford. You spoke about it obviously on the club podcast, and at the end of that season, you're looking about what to do for the future. Tell us from your perspective how that move to Mansfield came about. Because as I understand it, obviously you and Adam Murray have got a really good relationship. You know, you're really close friends as well, and he mentored you a lot when you were at Oxford. But it wasn't Adam Murray's influence, was it, that actually drew you to Mansfield Town first time round? It was a Welshman by the name of Mr. Day.
Oh gosh, got some stories on that cat as well.
We'll have every single one right now.
No, some of them X-rated, but yeah. Basically, I think Muzz was at the club. I think I did speak to Muzz briefly, but obviously Rhys Day was at the club a little bit longer, for a bit of a longer period of time. And I remember having a chat with, as I said in my podcast, like Chris Wilder at the time, and it you know, football's obviously a tough game mentally and physically, and you know, I had a chat with Chris, you know, come the end of that season, and you know, back I look at it now, you know, the Football League and the conference, it was a big jump back then. I feel like, you know, non-league now is very competitive, you know, there's not, you know, it's a lot stronger basically, but Football League back then was, you know, everything's recorded, it's on TV. So I you know, I missed a few chances early on at Oxford, and the gaffer kind of, you know, at the time wasn't really putting much faith in me. And you know, I just got to a point where it's like, well, you know, what more have you got to do, you know, for a club to help them get promoted and things like that. And you know, it comes the end of the season, I'm not with the first team. I think they go away to Portugal at the time. I'm talking about Oxford now. I think they go away to Portugal pre-season. I'm left, you know, training with Malcolm Crosby at Oxford's training ground, and I'm like, you know, getting to a point where I need a club here. There's no way that I can just be sort of fizzled out like that. And they mentioned a few clubs, but you know, I knew Reece from Oxford, and he's a great lad, and he just sort of said, like, listen, Mansfield's a big club. And do you know what it is? I didn't mention this in my podcast, but when I was at Torquay, Mansfield's, I think, were relegated in the conference at that point. And I'll never forget, I think it was Jason Lee up front, and I was, you know, hating every second of my time at Torquay. But I watched that game, and he scored, and I think it was a 1-1 draw. And I'll never forget, because I was walking away from the ground at that point. It looked like we were going to win 1-0, you know, and as you do when you want to be playing, you're hoping your team loses, being real with it. And I never forget, he scored, and I just heard this massive, like, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're a big club. You know, that like, I like their kit, I like the colours they were wearing, but didn't think anything of it. And yeah, fast forwarding all that time back to Oxford, then when Reece sort of called me and said that Mansfield were interested, I was like, that's a big club. I remember seeing them at Torquay. I remember the big, you know, following, and you know, it looked like, you know, a good club. So desperate to play, and Reece sort of saying, get to this club. It's a flipping good club. You know, big crowd, good stadium. You know, they do it right. And you know, I just thought to myself, right, okay, well, if Reece is saying that, you know, and Muzz is there, or Muzz was about to sign at the time, it's a no-brainer. You know, I need to go and play football, and I made my way up to Mansfield, and I didn't have a clue where Mansfield was. You know, I thought I was like, Mansfield, that sounds like it could be near Manchester. You know, being completely honest. It was a guy, I can't remember his name, but someone called me and said, come straight to the club, basically. And obviously, as you do, you go down, is it Nottingham Road, the long road?
Yeah.
Rounds, yeah. And, you know, I was sort of looking, you know, besides the houses on the way down, going, God, this is quite this nice spot down here. And then, you know, went all the way to the bottom of the road. And then obviously you see, at the time, it's Field Mill, and saw it out the corner of my eye. And I was like, wow, that's the stadium. Wow. Like, you know, and then obviously pulled round, and I was like, yeah, this is a bit of me, this is a bit of me, this. And then obviously went into the reception, and I think it was Jono there at the time, and he was like, hey up, Ducky. All right, Duck.
Good old Jono.
Bless him. Like,
What a guy.
He's a legend. Yeah, absolutely great. And he was just there sort of looking, all right, Ducky, all right, Ducky. I was just like, sort of, you know, thinking to myself, did he call me Duck then? Like, really?
You know what? That's the most, like, thing from, like, an outside point of view, which is the most, like, misconceived thing ever.
Yeah.
Because I've genuinely only met probably like a handful of people in my entire 33 years living in Mansfield that actually say duck. It's more of a Nottingham thing. It's not a Mansfield thing.
Is
funny.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought it was just Mansfield.
No, it's so weird.
I've been, when I've been doing my shopping in Tesco's and stuff, I've been duck, and it's almost come part of my language now, like where, calling people duck and ducky and stuff, and it's it was that kind of thing, just settled me in really. It was just a bit of tongue in cheek, and shook Jono's hand, and saw a couple of other lads, saw Steve-O straight away. Honestly, that guy I cannot talk highly enough about. Mez, and just sort of got welcomed in really. But ultimately, like, my confidence levels at that point, like, I obviously scored in the conference semi-final and the final at Oxford, so I was kind of like, I'm not beating my own drum, but I was one of the best players there, so I was just ready to give Mansfield. All I wanted to do really as a young boy then is just be loved. I just wanted to be loved, and to be trusted with a role that is a centre forward. Because a lot of my early career I was on the left, I was on the right. And no one really trusted me as a centre forward apart from my early days at Oxford, where that's probably where I had a chance, as I said in my my podcast, where I could have gone to the top. If you speak to Adam Murray back when I was 18, 19, I was doing things that were were pretty crazy for a lad of that age. So a lot of frustration, and for the first time I had a club that treated me like a striker, that looked at me like a striker, that cheered me on anytime I got the ball in the final third. I remember they were just like, run him, just run at him. And I was like, well, if they're telling me to do it, I'm going to go and do it, and, again, backing from Paul Cox, him, psychologically was absolutely brilliant. I mean, people can say what they want about Paul Cox in terms of, it's hoof football, it's this, that and the other. Listen, like, Coxie had 3 training sessions in his locker at best, and he'll tell you that himself. He was no coach. But, Mickey Moore used to do more of that sort of stuff. But what Paul Cox done really well is it was his psychology with the players. I mean, you look at some of the players that we had back then, the likes of Big X, Halsey from St. Anne's, Lyndon, Gold Tooth, like there was some rough, heavy lads in there. Do you know what I mean? But to be fair to Paul Cox, he had a bit about him where we would listen to him, because he was a fair man, so that was kind of before I go off, because I'll go, I'll be talking all night just about my experiences. So many experiences at Mansfield that are so positive, but yeah, arriving at the club, I got made to feel very welcome. And I kind of said earlier on as well, again in my podcast, that I was quite not abrupt, but I didn't really take no nonsense. No nonsense, and I think the Mansfield folk, to be honest with you, well, they are, from spending all those years there, they're very much the same. They don't take no crap. They don't take no nonsense. They'd say exactly how it is, and it worked well. I knew where I stood with them, and knew where I stood with everyone in the town. So.
I think there is such a thing in life. I'm a big believer of this, of coincidence and timing, because the time that you arrived at Mansfield, and I'll verify this, was probably the lowest point in the club's history. Yes, we just sort of had John and Carolyn Radford take over the club, and we got to Wembley the year before in the FA Trophy final, the worst cup final you will ever witness, by the way, under Duncan Russell, God rest him. But the squad knew that all of those players were going to get released. Duncan Russell knew that he was going to get released, and it was a complete rebuild. Paul Cox had just come in, and that group, were being put together for a project. So in terms of timing, hungry players who wanted to play for the shirt, players who wanted to give their all and, drag the club back to where it belongs. It was such a huge thing. And to get that all together and to have that attitude of, I'm going to go in and I'm going to run. You were already onto a winner before you'd even kicked a ball.
Well, yeah, that was my game. I've always been a runner. I think sometimes I look at the game. Sometimes I'm like, where's the runners? Where's the people? Where's the willing runners to get in behind teams, to stretch teams, to cause those problems? And I was always a very fit lad, so it fit well with the Mansfield fans at the time. They sort of like, he's working his nuts off. To be fair to him, I don't mind him, and that was naturally what I was about as a player. But it's funny you should say that, talking about sort of the final and things like that. There was still a little bit of that amongst the boys that the lads that were that sort of lasted after that. There was still a tiny little bit of I guess like a bit of a hangover after that season. I don't think the boys truly believed in themselves as much as what they needed to. Hence the fact we probably didn't get promoted the first season. We only done the playoffs. I know I got a red card and absolutely killed us.
Oh, we'll be talking about that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I still don't blame you for that.
Fresh. Oh gosh. Yeah.
You're 60,
What a game, yeah. Losing lots of that. And I think, talking about what you're saying there about some of the lads that were left over, there were only sort of a handful, but the previous season, to again put it into context, and many fans sort of forget this, and sometimes we have to say it on the podcast, footballers are human beings that have got shorter lifespans in terms of career earnings, and when your payment is under threat, all of a sudden your desire to work and to do things completely shuts down. And the season before you arrived and before Coxie arrived was the season we were taken over by the Radfords. We were locked out of the stadium by the former owner. We had to.
I remember hearing a story about that. High must give him a right see him too, I think.
Yeah. There's plenty of stories about that. We had to play a FA Trophy game at Worksop Town. It looked for a while like we were going to have to relocate to Worksport or Rainworth. We had nowhere to train, which I know sort of continued a little bit into your spell, or those sort of down the quarry sort of became more of a permanent fixture. We were literally training on fields, on car parks, at schools. There were unpaid bills. There was so much going on that as a footballer to sort of live through that and stay there and to still give their all when they're trying to provide for the family is a big thing. But I think that says a lot about characters. The likes of Alan Marriott was a top goalkeeper who could have played leagues above, stuck with us. Adam Murray, this must have been about his 90th spell with Stags and still gave his all. He could still do it. Rhys Day, as you mentioned, absolute legend. Louis Briscoe had been there a long time at that point. And I think that was pretty much it. And the rest sort of came in and built around it. I wanted to talk, though, a little bit about Paul Cox and his backroom staff, because you alluded to it there, Matt. You were saying about he only had 3 sort of training sessions in his locker. We've interviewed Paul a number of times. He's loved by us on the podcast. He's an absolute top man. I owe a lot sort of Paul as well, because back in those sort of days, I was sort of doing a bit of voluntary work for a local community radio station, doing commentaries, which about 3 people were listening to, and doing post-match interviews. But under the previous manager, David Holsworth, I'd had a really bad experience in terms of interviewing a manager. But Coxie was absolutely sound with me, made me feel comfortable around the players and comfortable in what I was doing. He was a top man, and we always used to have a bit of banter. I used to actually sort of along to the games, especially in the second season, the promotion season, with my then girlfriend, who I met as a part of doing the games, and he always made her feel welcome. It was like our little thing. It was really great. He used to joke that he'd be the best man at our wedding. Well, we split up later, but I'm getting married to someone else in next year. So if you still want to be best man, then let's do it. And we're still really good friends now, and I still see her on a match day, and we still reminisce a lot about those days. So Coxie was always great with us, and he always had a bit of banter and stuff. And in lockdown, he was great as well. And you could just tell he was a real manager. But there was certain people, behind the scenes that some are still at the club, some have moved on. Mickey Moores, he did a superb job at Cheltenham as director of football. He's now at Shrewsbury, isn't he? And made a good appointment there. Richard Cooper's now our academy director.
Guy.
Obviously, Jammer, who you played with in your second spell, he's part of the academy and stuff.
Yeah.
What was it about Paul Cox and his backroom staff that he assembled, about their influence, which turned you into this player that was almost angry at football and wanted to prove a point, to a player that just gave their everything week in, week out?
Well, I'm back in touch with Coxie now, the gaffer, I call him. obviously when you're playing football with ships in the night, it's difficult. You don't really have time to think. You're just so focused on your next training session or your next game, or keeping fit, nutrition, all that sort of stuff. So while you're in football, it's tough. But, the last sort of year, maybe 18 months, I got back in touch with Coxie, and we were on the phone for about 3 hours, just talking and catching up. He's a genuine, real nice guy. But he takes no nonsense as well. He's an ops boy, like, through and through. If he smells, someone being a bit of a shithouse, he'll tell you as well. Which again, I liked that. But I knew where I stood with people then, which was ideal with my personality. But about his backroom staff, well, at the start it was him and Mickey Moore. I would say it's chalk and cheese really with the gaffer and Mickey Moore, because it was almost two completely insights into football, but it worked really well. I mean, the gaffer could just be the gaffer, and Mickey Moore would do all the set pieces, all the training sessions, all the organisation, how we should play, what type of style we should play, etc., etc. And then obviously you got in Coops as well. When we were going through periods where we were a bit soft, Coops was great, because Coops was almost like, he would go in for the gaffer, so the gaffer wouldn't even really need to get his hands dirty like that. He would obviously expose people if they're not on their game, but then Coops would go in and like, you fucking, you better be on it today. Do you know what I mean? And Coops is a no nonsense sort of guy as well. So it was a good blend of you got the football aspect of it with Mickey Moore. And I know Coops is a top coach now. Like, I've heard such great things about him. But at the time, it was more of a drive, because football, anyone can pass it around the cones and look, $1 million, and yeah, look at him, he looks great, but desire and will to win, and to come on top, of your headers, your tackles, to not be skying over the bar all the time with your crosses, to having that extra sort of concentration. I think the blend was just perfect, really. And it was just brilliant to be part of it, to be honest. And again, like, they were no nonsense lads, like, they're Notts boys, so they would smell a rat basically straight away. So there was no hiding places for lads, which fitted well with me, because I was fit as a flea and I would put everything in. I'll be 100%. So I think once I gained their trust, and they could see, they were like, well, he's doing it because he wants to do it, and once I kind of got that, I wasn't really on the bad side of it, thankfully. I was on the good side of it, and the trust was just getting more and more and more, and they give me more responsibility.
I guess that's where you thrive as well. That someone shows love and enthusiasm in you, that's where it sort of sparkles. And we certainly saw that on the pitch, and that was reflected once that first goal went in against Luton, which was an absolute screamer from outside the box. We're thinking, here we go every week. And then there's so many different ranges of finishes was great. But what I like about Paul Cox and his management style was it was ugly at times, but also you were so together. And there was also pre-season played a massive part in that. And one memory I've got is that very first pre-season, when, we've just built this squad together, something's got to click to get going. And there's nothing better than a little, you can either confirm or deny this. It's entirely up to you. Heard it from a few. And I've got some stories which we can't say, but pre-season scraps is the note that I've got written down on my bit of paper. There was one infamous one on the pitch at Ilkeston when obviously we had to all come together as a club. Gary Ricketts episode with Tomo, which was just disgraceful, and Suts, and I think it might have been Riles as well in 3-in-1 game. But before that, Boston away. Now, I remember pre-season we always went to Boston, and
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah.
yeah.
we had
Oh, yeah.
because the boys were buzzing off it. They're like, "You ever been Skeggy, lad? Skeg Vegas, lads."
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Lind-
Skeggy, what's that?
Yeah, for Lyndon Meikle, players that are from Notts, Skeg's like it's top level, top tier. I've always got
They called it Skeg Vegas,
yeah. My vivid memory of that is I was doing commentary in pre-season. I couldn't drive at the time, so it was me and my dad, and we pulled up at a set of traffic lights. Now I can't remember who it was, but it was a member of the management staff. It might have been Muzz, because I've got a memory of him saying "Hey up, Squirrel," and he used to call me Squirrel loads. I don't know why. Probably the ginger thing.
He used to call me Goblin, so yeah.
He's just that type of guy. And we were at these traffic lights. He's, "Oh yeah, heading back to Mansfield now, lads. There, fuck that. Get sent down to Boston tonight. Get in the hotel and stuff." And like,
yeah.
I mean, I was 18 or 19 at the time, thinking that's probably not a wise idea, is it? And I went, no, better not. And we ended up going home. And Monday morning, obviously, the traditional press conference, and I can't remember who the player was that was being interviewed, but the camera had broken that day, so there was no video interview of it because said player had a black eye, and I can't remember who it was, but there was many rumors going around that on that night out, one or two of the players had got started on in Skeg Vegas by a few of the locals, and that had invigorated squad togetherness. And there was a few rumors going around that it might have been set up on purpose.
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I think I nipped off early that night.
It's a good excuse.
What's involved?
Yeah, I think I was single at the time and I had nicked a bird and went off. But I remember a scrap happening. I vaguely remember. Something popping off, but our looking back then, I don't think we had we had like lads that were gamers out, but we didn't have all our hitters there, and in terms of Big X and Demps, those guys. So
wait, do you say that John Demps is a big hitter, the nicest spoken man in football?
Demps can go. Demps can go. Yeah.
Going on.
Demps and Jonah and that, honestly, like, yeah, they were nuts. Beeves, yeah, like we had
no wonder his shoulder kept popping out.
Oh mate, yeah, we had a couple of all the lads were game. They were game for it. Again, like it was a good blend. I think we used to do boxing as well back then. The gaffer was on us, like we used to do boxing training at the gym. But yeah, I cannot necessarily remember. Now I go back, I do remember something kind of popping off. I'm not sure what happened, but I know that there's like a lot of travellers and stuff in Skegness. So, and I think a lot of I think I remember feeling a bit like we're getting the eyes here, like a lot of lads.
Now, in the comments on the live feed, we've not touched upon many of these yet, but I always keep an eye on them. And Carp, who you know well, has just written the two words Gary Roberts in the comments. And that's probably a whole conversation which we probably should not put out on a live broadcast, but we'll talk about after.
Robbo, oh my gosh, where do you want me to start with that guy? Flipping heck, wow. I mean, Robbo, there was a thing at the time. There was a drug called Meow Meow. Ketamine or something, and Robbo was a nutter, but it was his brothers and his family that used to bring to the games that were like off, they were nuts. And it was like, Robbo would come in like, fresh, ready to play the game, and he's like, "Oh, Greeny, you'll see all, look, there they are up there. Can you not see them there? Jules are swinging, mate, for the Stags today." And I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, Robbo, you've been nutbag, mate." I was like, "How have you bought all these there today?" But yeah, Robbo was, again, to be fair, Robbo was up there with me with top midfielders. Like, what a player. But I remember speaking to his mum once, and because I used to sometimes, after a game, he would stay at my place or whatever. I'd try and look after him, try and rein him in a little bit. And,
good luck.
Yeah. And I remember speaking to his mum, And I felt so sorry for her. I was like, "Oh, hello, love. You're right. Robbo's fine. He's with me." Da, da, da. And she was like, "Oh, please look after him. He's, yeah." And I was like, "Don't worry. He's in good hands. I'll look after him. You stay around mine tonight. Blah blah blah. We're having a few beers, and it's all good, and all the rest of it." And then I'll say like, "Yeah, all right. See you soon." Sort of going back to Robbo. And then Robbo would get the phone back. "All right, mum. Now fuck off." And he's horrible guy. Like, Robbo, your mum's just like concerned about you there. He's just like, fuck her. Like, he's just a crazy bastard. Absolute crazy bastard. Like,
I love it.
He, there was just no containing that guy, at all. But what a player.
I'm sure there's others as well from the following season, because we did. I don't want to say the phrase attract nutters, but there's arguably we did. Jamie Hand and Gary Roberts in the same team was probably not a wise idea either. Adam Chapman to a degree as well.
Chappie.
Lows.
I think Chappie was a bit unfortunate, because I think his head got messed up a little after the final at Wembley. Obviously, he went through something that he was very unfortunate to, and then I think he wasn't quite right. But again, athlete and player wise, what a player. He could ping the ball 120 yards.
I think my point is that they're all key components to this just uniqueness, which you just do not get, and it all blended together so well. And
I think, who else did you add? You had the midfielder as well. Jamie Tolley.
Jamie Tolley, the Jamies, yeah.
You had Jamie Hand, Jamie Tolley, Gary Roberts, and then you had a load of lads that, basically the rest of us, there was nothing new under the sun with them, really, and then, it's some of the stuff, like, again, what Robbo used to do in the shower, I can't even flip and talk about it. Showers.
I will not get away with. I will not get away with ending this podcast without getting one of those. So have a little think and try and not do it so it's libelous, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. Because what I want to touch upon a little bit is, we mentioned the Ilkeston thing before, and for me, we've spoken about this a long time. You never want to see three of your players get injured, and for the manager to take the team off the pitch is a big thing as well. But as a new squad coming together and to have to sort of like get that togetherness, unfortunately, there was an incident a few years later. You might have been at the club at the time. I can't remember. No, you weren't. It was after you'd gone again. It was a few years later with Christian Pearce in a pre-season friendly. There was an incident with racism, and David Flickcroft, the then manager, sort of frog marched him off for his own protection. Stuff horrible, but it pulled the team together around the captain. And the point with this Ilkeston game is 3 players injured by the same one, very sort of pub football sort of style. You all rallied round each other, and straight away that sort of fire was there, that we are going to fight every single week for every single one of you, whether you're playing or not. And that's a huge part of a team that goes on.
Oh, absolutely. It's things like that. Now you remind me of it. It's things like that I remember clear as day, Coxie bringing us in after and going like, literally, this is what we're about now. We fight. He really did get that out of us as lads, and all of a sudden lads put their shoulders back, and, but going back to the Tomo thing, that was horrific. I mean, honestly, I wasn't far away, like, from what that happened. And to be fair to Tomo, listen, Tomo's he was a very good player. He's had a good career, but, and he's Irish lad, so he can go, like, he can put a tackle in, but he wasn't necessarily like that sort of lad. He was just coming back from a calf injury or something as well at the time, and we were desperate to get him in and get playing, because he's technically a very good player. But the lad, oh my gosh! I mean, I don't think I've seen billboards since, on the angle. And again, like, I felt so sorry for him, because he's just being a good pro there. He's just trying to see the ball out, and just try and get the ball back and put it back on the pitch. But the lad has shoved him in the back, and he wasn't ready for it. Again, this is a guy that's played at Notts Forest and, played in the Championship, etc., been at some really good clubs. So he's not expecting like a lad to just go up behind him and shove him in the back. He's just trying to. I remember he's just innocently just trying to get his minutes in pre-season, and the lads just sort of shoved him. Tomo's not expected it at all, and oh my gosh, what happened to his nose? Bless him! Like it just basically exploded right as the billboards that used to go down, right, literally on the tip of it. I never forget. It was right on the tip, the sharpest part of it. And again, he's just going down the stages, and he was trying to get himself up as well, so he couldn't even put his hands on the billboard. He was trying to sort of like, and it was just that height. Oh my gosh, his nose absolutely. I had to walk away. I think Riles helped him and things like that, and it was horrific. I get from a striker's point of view, I was a horrible striker. I was, you ask a lot of people about me. My elbows were horrible. I was always leaving one on my centre halves. But this lad had done it. It was like, right, mate. Like, with all due respect, you're about 48 and you ain't got nothing to prove here. This is, we're battering Ilkeston, or we're giving him a good game or whatever. There's no need to do that. But
I think what made it worse was the fact that he'd already done two of our other players. I think he'd done Suts. It might have been Riles. Who else? I think it probably was Suts and Riles.
I think he popped Riles' nose.
Yeah.
Riles' nose and left one on Suts as well. And Suts is a nice guy. And Riles,
beautiful man.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and again, Riles, was playing well at those points. So I think, after that, there was lads that were. I mean, I've not heard of that lad since, so I don't know whether Halsey called a couple of man them just to.
We cannot confirm nor deny, but if Anthony Howe wants to pop on the podcast, he's always welcome. Let's turn our attention to that first season. Obviously, we'll skip through it and we'll talk about what happened at the end of it, because we went on a decent enough run in the first year under a new manager, new players sort of settling in and with a point to prove, and ended up reaching the playoffs. York City in the semi-final. There were a couple of other moments within that season as well, which I want to talk about. So we'll come to York in just a minute. And don't think I forgot about Gary Roberts either. So I will come back to you on...
I'll tell you about him in the O's pipe. That's fine.
On that. So what I wanted to... A few things on that particular season. A few moments which did and didn't involve you, and probably... actually, one of which was Alan Marriott and his goal-scoring exploits against Wrexham. What do you remember about that?
Quality.
I mean, Maz is the original cat. Like he's a brilliant shot stopper, and he wasn't the biggest keeper, but he was brave as a lion, and he had this huge kick, huge kick. I mean, the amount of goals I probably scored just off his direct kick, to be honest with you, his assists are probably up there as well. But I just remember, the gaffer demanded Maz to strike it as far as he could, because it was an entry in the 18-yard box at the end of the day, a free entry in the 18-yard box. You get as many entries as you can if you want to win games. And I don't know whether Maz meant it or not, but it was just it's just Maz being Maz, really. Like his technique and his ball striking was second to none. So I don't know whether the gaffer had a go at him or something, but he's hit that hard. He's hit that hard and far. And I just at the time it was just, we were so united as a team. There was no one bigger than there's no one that would get Tret any different. We were all the same. We were all on a level playing field, So yeah, I don't think it probably got enough recognition, to be honest with you. Because looking back now, you just don't see those things.
No.
But it was it's just Maz being Maz, I guess.
I guess one of the only times where you're happy to hear Alan Wilson shout another player's name. I watched that video back the other day.
Yeah, I did.
Came up on memories, and because we were playing Wrexham in the league, and it always splashes up about what happened in previous games, and just hearing Alan's elation. Alan, that must have been one of the most surreal goals you've ever called, right?
Because it's amazing, because as you're sat there in front of the window, or stood there in front of the window as I was in them days, just watching it, you just knew what was going to happen, because the keeper had come out so far, and it was quite windy as well that night. And where it bounced, as he tried to get it, you knew damn well it was going to go over him and into the net. I just couldn't believe it. So we all had to compose ourselves. Once we'd played the goal music for it to go in, waited for everything to calm down like I normally do, and then said that. And the crowd, well, the biggest cheer we've ever had, I think.
Absolute genius. And then I don't know if you remember, Greenie, but there was a testimonial at the end of that season. Reece Day obviously sadly got injured and had to hang up his boots, and there was a team of Mansfield Town legends, and the squad of that year took each other on. He played up front in the second half.
Maz did. Oh
yeah,
Maz.
Lee Stevenson went in goal.
Yeah, like I think again, like I don't know whether like Maz just loves football. Like I think every single player in that team just loved football. Just absolutely loved football. Maz would be running around sometimes in training, take his gloves off and, have a run around and get involved. The gaffer used to include him in the circles and the keep balls and things like that. So Maz could play as well. He's probably a bit wasted in goal, to be honest with you. Probably
one night he wasn't wasted in goal was an FA Cup replay at Fleetwood, which you weren't there for, because like pretty much everybody else, you would have had your head down the toilet with food poisoning or whatever it was. Can you remember that? A sickness bug just absolutely wiped out everyone. What happened? We never really got to the bottom of that. Was it dodgy sandwiches? Was it we couldn't be bothered to go to Fleetwood on Tuesday night? What happened? I've never known anything so mad as that. Yeah. Players were literally throwing up on the pitch and running off.
I think it might have been something in the water. I wasn't sure. I wasn't, I'm not sure what happened, but I think there was something in the water or something. I remember lads in the drinks bottles and just like having a bit of drink and ecto vomiting straight away. So I remember being ill, and it literally just went straight through every single person. Like, people were just like, just walking off and like, just, sorry, I've got to stop talking, just puking everywhere. So I can't really go back to that, but it might have, I'm guessing it just must have been something in the water or something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to confirm that with you.
It was just absolutely a crazy thing. I've never known anything so mad in football in all of my life at all. Right, then we're going to get stuck into the good stuff. But before we do, we need to have a little trip down memory lane. Give ourselves a couple of minutes to have a little bit of a break and just to sort of sit back and remember why this man became a legend at Mansfield Town Football Club. Now, full disclosure, this is not a newly edited video. It's one which I found from years and years ago when Matt departed the first time around, when we made a Farewell Greenie, Legend Departs was what the video was called. A compilation of some of his goals during his time in his first spell at Mansfield Town FC. So some of the footage is a little bit grainy, but the memories are still as strong as ever.
Past the keeper in! It's 6 weeks of Mansfield, and now the party's in full swing! Definitely. Fantastic. Matt Reed, it's funny that there's a Mansfield players, every single one of them over and still ready. We'll find Bollins, now feeds Connor in the area, that's a good pass. Connor, into the box, yeah! 1-1! Get in there! Mansfield Town have leveled the game! Matt Green, so it's set. Lincoln 1, Mansfield Town 1! Yeah, fantastic response. Great finish as well, great move, great goal. Paul Connor, Matt Green linking up really well. The fans on that far side going nuts. Really right back, slips it forward, looking for the run of Matt Green. Matt Green inside the box, clips the keeper, and it's in! Mansfield are level! It's 2-2. It was a delightful chip from Lee Beavers at right back over the halfway line. Green to the right to the box, held off his runner well. The uprushing keeper came out. Draws across him towards the middle. Free head, it might be Green! Mansfield level! With some 6 minutes left to go, Matt Green finally ends his goal drought. and fires Mansfield Town level. John Thompson short free kick. Chris Clements with a clip. Matt Reed back across the box, and Matt Green from 4 yards sends the Stags fans into raptures. It's Mansfield 2, Lucas away to our left, in front of the North Stand for 2-1. Matt Green sent him the wrong way, and it's Mansfield 2, Barrow 1. Good calm penalty from Matt Green. That's exactly what he picks up. Through it goes to Matt Green, looking for his second of the game. Matt Green! Oh, he trickles it home. Loves it over the advancing keeper Sean Pearson. 2 goals in as many minutes, and it's now Mansfield Town 4, Barrow 1. Matt Green is down in front of the home supporters to make it Stag 6, Barrow 1 and take home the match ball. There's the whistle. Matt Green right-footed. He scores. Same side as before. Hammers home the keeper this time guessed correctly, but Green put enough height on it to put the ball into the back of the net. Matt Green celebrates another Stags hat-trick. He'll be taking home the match ball. Singing and back your side and draw them in. As Larry launches forward again, reads the clock, he flicks on his right hand ball, but Green's had a box, yeah! Matt Green is winning for Mansfield Town! Yeah! Come on! Mansfield on top of the table! The fans are on the pitch! And Matt Green gets his second goal of the game! It's Hereford 1! Mansfield Town 2! And that's the goal! Which could win Mansfield Town! The Wrexham fans scored last time around, there's the whistle! Green stands up and he's in! Mansfield has the breakthrough! Matt Green scores, and my headset falls off. It's Mansfield Town 1, Wrexham 0. Stags had the breakthrough they wanted. They're in the driving seat now.
How little we know. How little we. Have I gone quiet? I've gone quiet in my ears. I turned my headphones down. I couldn't hear myself. How little we knew that would only be one half of the story. Do you know what, Al? Watching that back, that just reminds you how good a finisher this man was. The variety of the finishes in there, the movement, the link-up play. It just typifies the term striker extraordinaire.
Well, I think it was same as you said in your podcast, the other podcast you did, wasn't it, Matt? You said left foot, right foot. You've always been told to use both, and head. And I mean, if ever you score a hat-trick, that's the perfect way, isn't it? Left foot, right foot, and the head. And I mean, seeing some of them goals, that one you chipped over the keeper. And I can always remember something that always typified you, how rapid you were. You know, once you got the ball and you looked at Muzzer looked at you, or Muzzer looked at you, whichever, straight over, you know exactly where it was going. You run onto it, you knew it was going to be 1-0. And, you know, that you don't get that very often, do you, in football? But you and Muzzer were definitely on the same wavelength.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that, Al. I think from a young boy, my drive to score goals was always there. But I think, you know, as footballers, you can come across a lot of players that are quite selfish and quite sort of, wanting the best for themselves, which, you know, completely understand. Football's a competitive game. You know, it's the change room can be a pack of wolves. You know, everybody wants your shirt. So, but you can get players like Muzz that actually enjoy the other arts of the game, you know, and Muzz, he wasn't bothered about scoring goals. He preferred, you know, the flight of the ball. He preferred settling the ball down and giving it to someone that was actually hungry and willing to run, you know, his nuts off in terms of making the move. You know, I spoke about communication a lot, obviously, in the podcast, but I forgot to mention it's not just verbally, it's actually movement with your body as well.
Yeah.
And communicating with the player or the players around you, and making it obvious with your movement. And I see, as I've come down the league, I see a lot of players, they show, but they don't really show. You know, and you see a lot of players wanting the ball, but they're stood behind a player. You know, with Muzz and me, it was clear. It was a clear language. You know, a lot of the boys set me up goals as well. Lyndon was brilliant. You know, Lyndon got it in the end because Muzz would do it so quick. Lyndon would go, "Oh, Greenie wants it quick." You know, because what I need was I'm going to run offside, or the moment's going to be over. So Muzz knew I needed it quick. You know, and the boys kind of clocked how quick Muzz was giving it to me, and they started doing it as well. But ultimately, like, going back to the both feet, I think, you know, you look at the greats, you know, the iconic strikers, and you know, I'm not saying that, you know, in the Premiership I was anywhere near as good as these guys, but you know, I had the privilege to train, like I said in my podcast, with some of the best players that the Premiership have ever seen, and they're so bow-footed. It's incredible. And you know, it's not till you watch back, you know, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's goals, Robbie Fowler's goals, you think, wow, they're bow-footed. So I was always taught, not just from them, from an early age, like, you're going to need your left foot, because it's not always going to be perfect for you. You know, you do get players. I have come across players, as I mentioned in the podcast, you know, the Peter Whittinghams that have just got a left foot that their left foot's like a wand. Like, it's you do get players like that, but I think as a striker, you can't just rely on one foot, because it's never going to be perfect for you. I see a lot of lads doing finishing drills now, and they're banging it at the edge of the box, and they're taking all the time in the world. They're having a good touch out their feet, taking all the time in the world, and they're whipping it in the top corner, and they think they're a good player. For me, it does nothing for me. I look at that and go, that's not real. That is not a match situation. And that's what, you know, eventually when I go into my coaching, I want to make sure that I replicate match situations for strikers, because anyone can do a crossing and finishing drill, a training drill, but again, the ball could be spinning, it could be bouncing. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect, especially if you're last in the line as a striker. It's never going to be perfect for you to you know, you might get 5 or 6 goals a season where, wow, that was always a goal. I knew it was going to go in from the moment I had a touch, or from the moment it trickled to me. But I think goals, the variety of goals, is what you said there, Al, is because I didn't care how I scored. I just knew I had to make the right decision in front of goal to score. Whether that was left foot or my right foot, I didn't mind.
I do wonder a little bit about, obviously, with what happened the previous season in York, and I want to go back to that for a second, how that sort of drove on that second season, not just for the team, but for you personally, because you've obviously got a really good relationship with Adam Murray. I love Muzz as a player. He's in my sort of top bracket of players. Love him as a person as well. He's just a really great guy, and I've got this memory of him, and I always knew we'd get promoted that season, because after the semi-final second leg, I was commentating next to Alan's box, because the press box upstairs was full, and Muzz had obviously run through brick walls, and he'd been voted man of the match, had to go upstairs and do all the corporates. And before he went upstairs, he slumped in the seats next to me as I was packing my gear up, and he was absolutely broken in tears. Now, I've seen him, obviously I did a bit of work experience at the club at times, so I'd seen him a little bit and got to know him over time, and I'd never sort of seen him that low. Even when he had his struggles with the injuries and things like that, he was just absolutely broken. And we were sort of sat and we were talking about the season, we were talking about highs and lows of football, and after a couple of minutes of, you know, it being really down and really sort of negative, something just clicked in his brain. He looked up, looked around at the ground, empty, and he just went, "Next season, I promise you we'll get promoted." Got up and went upstairs. Came back downstairs as I finished, as I was walking out, he went, tapped me on the shoulder and went, "See you next season, watch what happens." And like, at the end, it just, Adam Murray made a promise, and you just knew it was going to happen with him driving it. And that hurt from him drove him on. And I wonder whether it was a similar story for you, because we need to talk about it. The semi-final first leg, obviously, you were red carded.
Yeah.
Was it handball? Because the replays, I still can't tell from now. Were you trying to move your hand away? What was going on? Give us the Matt Green
It was
Scoop.
I can't be dishonest about it. I'll have to just be completely honest. It was handball. What happened was, I don't know whether you can remember the full game, but
Yeah.
I got the yellow card initially from going through the goalie. I was desperate to do it in that season, and desperate not really a good place to be, because you lose a bit of composure when you're like that. And I think we go 1-0 down against York away. And you hear it now with a lot of players playing on the edge. And I was 100% one of those players. You know, I played on the edge. And the thought of losing that game, the lack of opportunities I had in that game. You know, York played better than us in that game. They played better than us, and I was doubled up the whole game, so I was getting frustrated as hell. And they you know, York, again, York, Luton, Wrexham, I probably scored my most goals against those three teams. So York, I was like, you're soft. Like, why are you turning up in the semi, like doubling up on me? You know, the York fans were giving me a bit. I was just really, really probably too wound up. And again, you know, there's a fine line, you know, where you can cross over that line. And the handball come about because the ball came over the top, and it's just a tiny bit too much on it. It's just a tiny bit too much. Wasn't getting there, and the keeper come flying out to kick it again, and you know, fancied another sort of one-on-one with me. And what I'd done, I should have known. I should have never got away with it, but I thought I could have at the time, because if I do it, you know, quick or whatever. And also the frustration, the fact like, and the gaffer, you know, I had a better relationship with obviously Coxey the second season. We had a great relationship from the moment we met, but what I'm saying is, psychology wise, he probably should have, or I should have just gone, listen, I'm so pumped for this game, we've got to win this game. But really, in hindsight, we had another leg where we were going to batter him at home. So there's nothing. Yeah. I didn't need to be that wound up in that moment. I didn't need to be that up for the game. I didn't need to be that kind of, you know, again, over crossing the frustration line to be desperate. And all I wanted to do was score. It came from a place of innocence in terms of all I wanted to do was score. That's all I ever, you know, planned to do. That's the thing. But, you know, it came from a place really where, again, I thought I could get away with it, and lack of being involved in that game frustrated the life out of me. And you know, it was a selfish decision. You know, I'll be frank with that. It was selfish from me. I wasn't looking at the whole picture in the moment. Again, I was just in the moment, thinking we need to make this 1-1 here. We need to make this 1-1 here. I will get a chance, because, you know, ultimately you always got to believe in yourself as a striker. You always get a sniff, whether it's the 95th minute or the first minute, you're going to get a sniff. And I think it was, I don't know who played the ball. It might have been Muzz, and, you know, just the keeper was flying off his line. That's why I got the booking, you know, in the first half, because obviously they knew I was, you know, rapid. So they said, right, you stay on your 18-yard box, because when this lad gets in behind, we need you to mop up.
Yeah.
And it was so close, this ball, so close to me getting there. When he come flying out, it was just like, are you busy? You know, like, stay on your line, like, what you're doing. Like, it's just frustration. It was very selfish from me in that moment, because again, I should have looked at the bigger picture. You know, I can't blame anyone else. You know, I could probably, you know, say like the gaffer maybe should have reined me in, but no, it comes from me.
Is that what then you used as fuel for the next season? Because obviously, second leg, without you, we relied on you a lot that season in terms of goals. We lose the second leg, Suts gets sent off late on, we lose it in extra time. Was that the fuel which you said, right, this season I just need to just rein in that anger a little bit and turn anger into goals?
Yeah, because I was on 30 goals that season anyway, so my confidence was through the roof, and I probably thought I could probably get a little slide touch on it, and it was a tiny touch, man. It wasn't like a blatant slap.
No.
It was like a little flick of the wrist, almost, just thinking, the ref might not see that. But the gaffer soon knocked me down a few pegs the second season because he brought in a load of competition for me.
That's called buying the competition to prevent teams like Luton competing.
Yeah.
A great tactic which worked wonders. Cheers, Radfords.
Yeah. No, it worked brilliant. He bought in Jake Spade. He bought in the lad from Kiddie, forget his name now. Nick Wright bought in and the gaffer kind of he played me perfect, to be honest with you. Again, talking about psychology, because he was scoring at the start more than me. So and he let Spatey rub that in my face, and Spatey's a great lad, it's football at the end of the day, but it really it put me kind of in a place where, hang on a minute, I scored 30 goals last season. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well,
that was then. This is now.
Yeah. So obviously at the start, a lot of mental and emotions coming back because, as I spoke about, beforehand, I've been fobbed off by a lot of clubs, a lot of managers early on in my younger years, which I look back on and I think, it's bang out of order. I don't know why they treat me like that. I thoughts were coming in my mind. Was it another case of that? But to be fair, again, like talking about one of my first gaffers, I could say Coxie just as important in my career because he played me so well there. He let me get frustrated, but he calmed me in a way where it was like, well, you've got to do the business though. So you can be as angry as you want it, Greenie, but at the end of the day, you've got to do the business now. It's I remember I was again, Spatey started the season brilliant. I even set him up a goal thinking, this is my strike power. Gaffer was like, no, we didn't, you two ain't playing together. He's playing. He scored 26 goals last season at Wrexham. And
it worked though.
It
worked. It worked a treat because big man come on, and me and the big man came on for Luton, and I got my goal just before Liverpool, and all that frustration, and again, like Liverpool was, if you look at it, I think I played one game before the Liverpool game. But he was always going to play me against Liverpool, and again, that's the psychology that I was talking about at the start with Paul Cox, which he does so well. He gets personalities, and me being this lad from Bristol with all this anger and hurt and frustration, and football's kind of chewed me up and spat me out in my younger years, and he knew that I was the best striker, but he didn't. He was just like, last season you killed us a little bit, you did with that stupidity. And if you want to play for me, you're going to have to be a man, which means you're going to have to sit there and watch someone score. And
suck it up, basically. Get it either suck it up and prove me wrong, or fuck off. Is basically what the attitude, isn't it? It's
which again, proper, Nottinghamshire Mansfield folk mentality, which worked well. So yeah, I mean, he got it bob on with me. I played. I came on last 20 minutes against Luton, again scored. I know the gaffer was under a bit of pressure at this point as well. It was completely uncalled for. But again, Mansfield folk, they take no nonsense. If we're not winning, we flipping game, and we got budgets in the league, you know, they're going to have something to say about it. But
I think the problem is, but so when you look back at them days, because the conference is such a different league, if you're not top and coasting,
yeah,
then you're struggling because it's one sort of out. And I think that brings us nicely sort of towards the end of that. And your comparisons between the two ends of the season, the Liverpool game kickstarters, we then lose to Kitty, I think it was, and then we go on this tremendous run where we only lose like one game in something like 18, 19, and we get to this fantastic finish, the last three games, Braintree, Hereford, and then Wrexham. And I obviously heard you talking on from the club podcast a little bit about it and everything. And I think where we should probably start is, you knew your contract was up at the end of that season. You'd had a fantastic point to that sort of stage. Did you know that you would be moving on regardless of what happened to Mansfield at that point? And how much of a factor did that play in your role then, in terms of getting hold of those lads through the, you know, when they're starting to stumble and just essentially dragging us over the line?
Being completely honest with you, I had, you know, it was Blackburn at the time, Birmingham, Bolton were in the Championship, and I think there was someone else. And I had an agent and I had a mentor. And to be honest with you, being completely honest, like in my younger years, I missed out on opportunities to play at the top level. And all I wanted to do after leaving Cardiff City was get back up to a level where I would get the recognition that I deserve in terms of, you know, playing at, you know, at the best level I could. And I almost did when I went to Birmingham. You know, I scored every goal in pre-season, scored against Leicester, scored against Swansea. You know, Hull City were in the Prem at the time. I got called up for Wales, so I almost done it again, but I probably should have done it when I was younger. So this is just talking about me personally. So the chance to play in the Championship, I could never turn away. And by the way, you know, Mr. Radford made me an offer that I think most people would have jumped at. You know, I've got to say that the chairman was desperate to keep me at the club. And looking back on it, you know, not even, you know, take all the financial side out of it, looking back on it, it would have been the best decision to make, because he did say to me, listen, Greenie, you know, and to be honest with you, all that season, I remember banging on the door saying, give me a contract. And it come to the point where it was the end of the season, I'm on a free transfer now. And, you know, JR made me, you know, he said, Greenie, stop messing around. Like, get him for I didn't turn up for pre-season. He was like, get into pre-season, stop messing around. I'll look after you. You know, I always have. And he has, you know, the club always have made sure that I was comfortable in my surroundings. But the thought of going back to the Championship, you know, and having that opportunity to potentially still make it to the top level, I could never turn down, in terms of my personal goals and progression, etc. But like I knew, though, I'm not gonna go to the Championship and leave Mansfield in the conference. Like there's no way. There's no way. It's just not happening. This club has done way too much for me. It's the Stags, it's my club. You know, I've enjoyed every second of every minute of being around here, from the lads to the town to everything about the place. You know, living in Southall, a lovely little cottage. It was just, you know, everything was just absolutely one of the happiest periods of my life, hands down. So yeah, going to the Braintree game. I just thought we were gonna win those 3 games, because the lads, like, and again, like, I'd done what I'd done against Hereford, but the lads were brilliant all season. Yeah, all season. And I just couldn't believe, like, I remember after Braintree, I didn't talk to anyone. You know, I was absolutely raging with the lads that we've lost, because I put
you were raging, we were fucking raging.
Oh!
we should have been celebrating on the way back on that journey.
The thing
We
is,
talk about doing it the hard way.
well, that's
football.
I know.
football. Yeah, that's the beauty about it. So I put us 1-0 up against Braintree as well. So in my mind, I've kind of done my job. I've done my job team there to give us a good start. Braintree's a horrible place to go.
Yeah.
And they were just wanting to kick lumps out of us. They didn't care about really playing, which made it worse. So Beeves plays an unbelievable diag over the top, and I have a touch across the keeper on my left foot and dink over him. And my celebration sort of says it all. It's like, come on, like, yes, right, another head axed, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
let's move on. But the game dragged on, and all of a sudden, I got a bit frustrated up top. To be fair, I think I, might have got a booking or something. All of a sudden, they just started wearing us down. And they got a goal at just before half time. I think it was 1-1, and then something like in the 92nd minute, it was a set piece, which Paul Cox was adamant that we wouldn't concede many goals from set pieces, because he saw that as like, that's being weak. You should not be conceding from set pieces. Get hold of your man. Man for man. You should say man for man. Your man does not get a header on the ball. So I think something happened. They worked a throw or something and managed to just scramble one in the bottom corner. And I just sort of looked at the lads at the time and I was just like, are you kidding me? I think I even kicked off at the end of the game, calling them all shithouses and because ultimately we're playing Braintree. We've had an unbelievable season. We should win that game.
Yeah.
We're 1-0 up. Come on. But yeah, we lose that game, which puts huge amount of pressure on the Hereford game. And as I said, by this point I'm on 55 goals. So, and almost know that I'm going to go to the Champions. I've got a lot of clubs looking at me as well at this moment. So what I didn't want to do, obviously, let myself down the last two games. Again, football back then, you're only as good as your last game, and it's very, if I had a bad last few games, I might not have got a move. It was ruthless. Football was ruthless. Yeah. So I just remember looking into a few of the boys' eyes, and just thinking like, what's wrong with you? But it was a big thing for some of those lads as well, to get promoted out the conference to the Football League. Some of those lads never had a promotion before. I've had two by this point, one with Torquay, one with Oxford. So I knew what it looked like, and I knew what it took, and I knew what it takes to get there. And obviously money, and there was probably a 3 or 4 lads that did, but yeah, the Hereford game, I was like, I knew after the Braintree game, I'm gonna have to do something. I'm gonna have to do a bit here. And I was like, I could just smell it. I could smell it in the lads. Again, like some lads would have been quite happy to. I don't think any lads. No, I take that back. No lads would have been happy to just finish in the second. But I think there was a few lads that were struggling a little bit mentally to get that last bit out of their body to go and be 100%. And again, like no man on my own, Demp's cleared one off the line. Maz made some good saves. But ultimately, my job was, and the lads, again, I talk about Mickey Moore giving me the ball earlier on when I first got to the Stags. Like, the boys knew that my job was to score goals. You know, that was my job. That was my title. That's what the gaffer wanted me to do. That's what, you know, they give me the shirt to do, the number 10 shirt. I was on penalties. It was like, he's our goal scorer. So, you know, it was getting peak of my powers. I mean, speaking about the header again, like,
oh, it's an incredible header to sort of get round and to get the connection on it, because it didn't really set up right, and then to have the composure in the last minute to do that. I think we could literally spend the next 4 or 5 hours just analysing that and talking about all of that. But do you know what? I think one thing that probably does need to be said is, you know, there probably was a little bit of frustration on the York thing and everything, and I don't think any Mansfield Town fan anywhere would have been angry that you chose to move on in that summer. Everyone was expecting it with the goals that you'd brought, and I think there might have actually been some, in some sort of sense, that might have been a little bit disappointed had you signed a contract extension and just stayed, because it would have just been delaying the inevitable. And what we want to see is our stars progress. And there were sort of 3 things which I really think stand out and sort of send you on, maybe 4 things actually, which sort of set you up to become a legend forever, regardless of that second spell, which I want to spend 10 minutes talking about in just a second. And that is the first thing being that you had the attitude to sort of come back and kickstart in that second season. The second being the fact that you did score that goal at Hereford. The third one being that then later on in your career, you did come back. And then the fourth one, and the most important one, is that right now you're going to tell us a story about Gary Roberts and a hose pipe.
Oh my gosh, Robbo. Oh my gosh. So we get in one morning. The showers aren't working in training. Robbo, he was either late or he was there before anybody at the training ground. And
let it all out, Greedy. Let it all out. We're all friends now.
So I used to get in pretty early, you know, when the first boys in, and the change rooms were pitch black. You know, sometimes we used to train at the ground, and there's a big hose pipe on the thing, and the showers weren't turned on at this point or weren't working. So I walk in, you know, Robbo's bollock naked, you know, in the showers, you know, jumps out and hi lads. You know, he was flipping off his nut probably at that point. And he's like, the showers aren't working, lads, the showers aren't working, you know, he's like Scouse accent. And he was there with a hose pipe sort of like, you know, showering it himself and that. And I was like, Robbo, have a word, lad. What's he doing in there? Look, Robbo's flipping showering with the hose pipe in there. Like, go and have a look at Robbo. Go and have a look at Robbo. And next thing, like, he's gone really quiet. And he's got the hose pipe and he's put it up his ass.
Oh, Robbo.
And then he's there like with his legs peeled back like this. In the shower with a hose pipe, and he's like, sometimes you just gotta have a clean, Greeny lad.
Oh dear.
It's like, it's stuff like that. Like, you just, it's comedy gold. Like, you know, all the boys, like even the lads that were just like against that sort of stuff, like everyone was just on their hands and knees. This lad has got a hose pipe up his ass. There's water spraying everywhere, like coming out his asshole. And he's just there, like with no teeth, going, sometimes you gotta have a wash, lad. You know, and it's just like, absolute rare breed, like rare breed. You know, there's a couple there. You know, Scott Shearer as well. He was an absolute nutbag. You know,
have you got a Scott Shearer story? Have you got a story from someone of the second time round? If you have, we'll save it until we come to that in a minute. So I'll give you a bit of time to condense it.
Another shower one, but yeah.
So is the showers where you got to watch out, isn't it? Right, on that bombshell. Greedy, by the way, are you good for 10 minutes and we'll get the rest of the stuff out of the way. Are you good? Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Brilliant. We're going to take a very, very quick break. Just allow ourselves to get the image of Gary Robertson's naked arse and a hosepipe wedged up there out of our brains. I'm never going to look at a hosepipe again. Then we'll return. We're going to talk about the return and put Matt Green to the test as well, and possibly another story about maybe a goalkeeper shoving. No, let's not go there. We'll find out soon. You're back with the Mansfield Matters podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Al, we've just been hearing from Greeny there some incredible stories. We'll get him back on in a minute. We know he's just gone to get himself a quick drink. We've been talking solely about the conference days there, but so many memories, funny stories, poignant stories as well. What a guest.
Oh, definitely. And, you can go around every football, not just Greeny, and he's one of our legends. You could go around Muzzy, you could go around Matt Reed. I would imagine they've all got a different story to tell. But that one was certainly quality. I certainly didn't expect that.
Funnily enough, I think I did. Now, I remember
not that bad, but you know what I mean. As soon as you mentioned the hosepipe, I thought, oh, this could be interesting.
Yeah, I did wonder whether hosepipe was going to be a euphemism and Gary Roberts would have been giving people a golden shower. I didn't expect it to end up where the sun doesn't shine, but there you go. It's one of those things, isn't it? From what Matt's spoken about so far, what's resonated with you the most?
It's similar to what we've got now at the moment, Craig, with the camaraderie. He said it himself. There were no special players, there were no superstars, as he said. Everybody was on the same footing, and that's similar to what we've got now. And it resonates, doesn't it? Because they got promoted the second year. We've just done the same after a few years, and it seems to be the Mansfield way. And that's what Mansfield fans like, provided somebody puts the shirt on, irrespective of how good or how bad they are. If they give 110%, no Stags fan will ever moan.
What I love about it is, the little bit of a peek into the man management style, because Paul Cox gets lambasted a lot of the time for playing hoofball, but it was a successful brand of football.
Yeah,
but
it got us out there.
It got us out there, but also what you don't see in that is the work. You don't see that a lot with what we do now, the work that the other staff do. So players like Mickey Moore doing a lot of the tactical analysis and doing the set pieces, people like Richard Cooper going and geeing them up, Andy Todd, Adam Murray, all of those influential people are all parts of the jigsaw.
That's right.
Just shows.
When you've got a team like that, it all works, doesn't it? It's same to a certain degree with Nigel. Nigel's got his brother, he's got Crosby, he's got Garner at the side of him, and it just works. It's been proved time and time again wherever he's been. And I'm same as you, I could listen to him all night. Because stories.
I could well be here all night. Let's bring him back in, and we'll get some go through some of the comments as well, and then we'll talk about very briefly about his second spell at the club. A couple of questions have come in, Matt, from a few of those who are watching tonight. If you've got any questions and you are watching tonight, do feel free to drop them in as well. One question is, who's the best player that you've ever played with? Doesn't have to be Mansfield. It can be in your entire career.
Like to get the best out of me, I've got to say Muzz. But close to him was Aaron Ramsey.
Not bad, is it?
Yeah, he was
Aaron Ramsey.
Before he broke his leg, because he wasn't, like, bless him, he still had an amazing career. But as a 15-year-old boy, I've never seen out like it.
No.
He came in. He looks good now, but he was spotty teenager, greasy wig on him, Valley lad. But he had a natural sort of shift in his hips that when you got people like Peter Whitten and when you got Steve McVale coming in, kicking boots around, kicking stuff around, saying that, this 15-year-old's taking the piss, it's and genuinely angry where he's like really sort of sucking people in and making people look stupid, taking an extra touch when not needed.
Yeah.
It was just like, and to be fair, talking about getting your head up, he used to play it, 30 yards on the floor and split defenses apart to get me in. So before he, I think people don't understand, before he broke his leg, and that's probably why he broke his leg, to be honest with you. I know it sounds horrific, but he was that sort of composed. You would think you would be able to get the ball. Like I get it now, like probably why he did get his leg broken, because he would show you enough of the ball where you think, I'm gonna just go through this full-blooded, But he always had a master plan. Yes, I'd probably say Rambo stands out. Obviously the legends were unbelievable, in terms of the big dogs that I played with, and Kevin Campbell, this past, obviously in the last year. What a player to play with. Talk about target man. I mean, the guy would take everything on his chest. Like, you'd think, right, you can flick this, but the guy would, and just take everything on his chest, and he was just great to play with. But yeah, I can't really say one. I would have to just say, in no order, probably, Muzz, Rambo, Kevin Campbell, Trevor Sinclair, Robbie. I can't. I've played with.
No.
There's a common theme to them all, though.
Yeah.
They all were very, very competitive lads. Like, again, Rambo, Ramsey. I remember coming on at Ninian Park with him for Cardiff. I'm 18, he's 15, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous. 27,000 fans there, and they made a lot of noise. The Cardiff fans, and I remember sort of nudging him and just like, just thinking, Rambo, are you nervous? You just remember, I never forget, plain as day, at 15 years old. Talk about big gonads. Like, he just looked at me and just went, nervous? No, just like, you're 15, mate. How can you be saying that? Like, you're
crazy.
Yeah, how can you be that fearless at 15? But again, like, that's why he went on to Arsenal, and it's a shame about his broken leg. I say it all the time. Like, wasn't the same player after that. But when he was a kid, he was something special, something really special.
For a second, I just want to sort of just turn the conversation a little bit more serious, because I think one thing which we don't talk about a lot in football, we've spent the last hour and a half reminiscing over some really good times, having a laugh and, crying with tears of joy and things like that. But we, like I alluded to in the first half, we don't tend to see football as human beings too often. And there is a bit of a mental health side of the game. The last Stag Stories we did was with Martin Pemberton, which was great. He was talking about his mental health struggles outside of the game. And I just want to sort of touch upon a couple of things, and with you in particular, Matt, and that is obviously your former teammate Lee Collins, who's sadly no longer with us, but also as well your sort of life after football, because I know, and you sort of alluded to it in the From the Club podcast, you alluded to it earlier on tonight as well, about how much of an emotional impact coming back to Mansfield had on you. I just wanted to talk about that side of the game for a minute, and how it's all weaved together for you now, and sort of where you're at now mentally, and sort of getting sort of around to that point where that full-time football is not a thing for you now, and now you're looking towards further down your career.
Yeah, well, it was like a triple blow almost, because I wasn't happy at Grimsby. I kind of got shipped out of Lincoln after, I scored 17 goals for Lincoln that season. I was ready to go and score 20, 30 goals that season, the second season for Lincoln. I'd done all pre-season. I was probably in the best shape of my life then. And obviously they buy in a striker, and straight away they're looking for money back that they spent on me. So I go to Salford. I've just bought this lovely house, with the missus, just had my second child, and all of a sudden I'm traveling to Manchester every day. And I should have put my foot down then. I should have put my foot down and just said, no, I'm going nowhere. I've just had my second child. And then that pretty much was too much for my ex-fiance at the time to kind of deal with, me not being there, her just having a child. We go through a horrible breakup. And then I'm at Grimsby. And listen, Grimsby were a brilliant club to me personally and helped me a lot. But I wasn't right after that. Obviously going through a breakup, with the nicest possible way. Grimsby's, a football league club, hands down, but it's the best place to be kind of, playing your football at the stage where I was. And then football's coming to an end as well. And it all just kind of, these spikes in football, like mentally, these highs, these lows. And then all of a sudden you've got to deal with real life stuff as well. And, as you do as a single man, well, me as a single man at the time, I've been in a, relationship for 13 years, most of my football career at that point, especially as a pro. And, you start going out too much, you start, obviously trying to replace, the person you love, missing your kids, all that sort of stuff. And I was burning the candle at both ends. I was going out, drinking far too much, and then lockdown happened, and obviously everyone hit the L in lockdown pretty much. And it was no different to me really. I lost my way a little bit in terms of being a professional. And it was like, my next door neighbor, you'd get to about sort of 6:30, and my next door neighbor, you would hear, the bottles pop in, and, but what I didn't understand, which I do now, is that they've worked every single day, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and people have a few beers on a Friday, but, it was in lockdown. We weren't allowed anywhere near the club. So I got into a bad habit of thinking that it's okay now. I'm 34 at the time. I'm coming towards the end of my career, that I can have a few more beers. And as anybody knows, it's a serious matter, when it comes to messing with the alcohol. And I would literally help anybody that's struggling with that in life, because it's a serious thing. It's an illness. It just got a grip really quick, because I'm a fit lad, I'm a lean lad. Ask anyone that knew me around Mansfield. I was a lightweight anyway. So done a lot of traveling as a kid. Thought that I was a wine connoisseur or whatever. And started having a few too many, and it carried on then through my time at Grimsby, because I was watching a lot on TV and thinking, I can play football and have a drink. It soon caught up with me, and sort of Ian Holloway at the time sort of come in and said, like can I smell a drink on you? And I was like, yeah, you can, to be fair, Gaffer. He was like, right. And he helped me no end, and obviously go through the PFA, and you go through those go do the right protocols. And again, the highs and lows of football, you go through all these different things, and then all of a sudden you've got to deal with real life stuff, which, to be honest with you, and my friends say it to me, and they get it. They're like, you bloody had a good life, mate. Now now you've got to deal with real life stuff all of a sudden. I didn't have the tools to do it. because all I knew was playing football and, get paid to play football and well. So life was really easy, because I was good at what I'd done. So yeah, it got to a stage where, I think I went to Linfield and again, brilliant club, brilliant setup there. I would recommend any young boy that wants to go and score goals at a decent level, play at Windsor Park, to go and do it. But, again, me at 35, 36, missing the kids desperately. To be fair to the lads at Linfield, obviously it's where George Best is from, Northern Ireland. So they those boys, they can rail, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say it was okay, but it wasn't as frowned upon out there. It was just kind of part of the culture in Northern Ireland. So obviously I jumped straight on that and was having the time of my life. It was brilliant. Belfast is a great city. They used to call me the Bel Air of Belfast at one point. It was carnage, but that was no good for me. So, and again, through all this, I'm just missing my kids, and drowning my sorrows, basically. And then I go to Gloucester and, kind of mess around a little bit there. And then just get, eventually sort of my parents, my family go, right, nah, this isn't you. This needs to stop before it kind of gets to a place where you can't turn back. And
honestly, mate, thank you for being so open on that. I think that's a really important thing. And if any, football fans sometimes can be fickle, and because they want results, they want to see the best for the team. And what they do forget in that is that footballers are human beings. And when they're going through bad spells in the games, there are always reasons behind it, whatever that may be. And if ever you're wondering what those reasons are, go and watch the last 5 minutes of what Matt's just spoken about there, because it just re-emphasizes the point that footballers are human and that they deal with shit too. And actually, it is okay to not be okay. And genuinely, I'm so glad to see you get into a better place now. And I know that you reunited with Moores last season and under Skip's influence as well. He was an absolutely top draw man. And I know that you've got your sights set on what you want to do in the future as well. But, you're not daft enough to know that there won't be dark days in the future as well. And we just want to put out there to you. We just want to sort of put out there to you as well that, anytime that you need someone to chat to or anything, you've got mine and Alan's details or whatever, just pick up the phone and drop us a message, because we're all human beings. We've all dealt with things, and throughout one thing or another, things connect us. And, it's football's not just a game. It is just a game, but it's a family as well. And, that's what it's all about, mate. So well done for speaking out and being so honest on that.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think we live in a day and age now where, mental health, and if you're struggling mentally, it doesn't matter how big and how strong you are or how big and how tough you think you are. It's something that there's a lot of people that understand it now. And you ask most of the lads, I loved a night out, but for the majority of my career, I was a top pro. There's no way I would have been able to play the games and score the goals that I did if I wasn't. So again, it was something that that dealing with real life problems. You're not a superhero as much as at times I probably thought I was. I've got emotions, and just like anybody else, I've got children and I love them dearly, and all of a sudden they've been ripped away from me. So it's a massive hole in my life, and there was no football in the world that could take that pain away.
Well, let's go back to a happier time, shall we? And that is, well, I'll say happier time because you got your move to Birmingham, you were doing well, then obviously you got hit by an injury, which we were all gutted about when we heard it. But there was an opportunity once your Birmingham contract was up to get back on the Mansfield train, as it were. How did that second move come back? Because obviously a lot had changed at that point. Paul Cox had gone. Adam Murray had made the step up from captain to assistant player manager after a spell where he was himself sort of looking like he might not have a future at the club. He was loaned out to Rainworth Miners Welfare for a month. There was mad stuff sort of going on as well. He's now the gaffer. All of the conference players that were there when you were there have pretty much moved on. How did that second move for Matt Green to play with Mansfield Town in the Football League, how did that one come about? And was it an easy decision to say, I'll see you Monday morning?
I think it was it was my happy place. It was my safe place. I trusted the chairman, the club, the players there. I knew all the staff, go through so many. And I think once I got my move to Birmingham and, I had my injury, there was a lot of setbacks on my injury, and it went on far too long. I think it was about 16 months in the end.
Cool.
And I got to a point where I think Bristol City were saying that they were going to take me. They're going to take me. Well, I went in. I worked so hard. I worked, I'll be honest. I worked so hard in that time in my rehab. That's why I went and played another 200 games after it, or 250 games after it. But I worked really, really hard. I was harder than most of the lads that were going through the same injury. And then to turn around and Gary wrote to say that. I was like, hang on a minute, mate. I've been grafting for 16 months to come back, and you just want to go. I've not played a game, one district game or something, or the district cup, and scored playing. That was Nikola Zigic's last game, and for him to just sit me down after doing that rehab for 6 months and just say, sorry, we're not having you. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I've just done all this rehab for 16 months to get back, and you're not even going to give me a year or anything to hold on to. And no one even knows if I'm fit. That was the worst thing as well. Like, he just, again, football's just ruthless. Yeah, Bristol City were messing around. They were messing around. We'll take him. And I was holding out for him because I want to still have my opportunity in the championship. And I spoke to Muzz. Muzz was calling me all summer saying, come in, we got you, come here. And to be fair, the chairman called me and said, Greenie, listen, I'm going to give you a 2-year contract. And if it's true and your knee's not right, I'm still going to pay you all through that 2 years just because of what you've done for the club previously. And that sort of love, it doesn't grow on trees.
No.
And again, like, you're going back to my younger years, I just wanted to be loved and appreciated as a footballer, and respected as a man. And to be fair, like, people talk about, you could have gone League One, you might have even gone back to the Championship. I was like, do you know what it is? A little bit like, I forget that. Like, just go where you're happy, I've kind of been there, been thrown to the lions yet again. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to the club where, they love and appreciate me. I love and appreciate them. I'm going to give 100% for them, and they're going to give 100% to me. So yeah, it was a place where it was a happy place. It was a happy move. It was, I again knew the area very well. And at the time, it's a case of listen, you've been out for 60 months. You just need to play as many games as you can now and score some goals for the club that you love.
How different was it though? Because obviously, like I mentioned, there was a transition. Muzz is no longer your teammate. He's no longer on the pitch. He sort of took a massive step back, in that transition period where he decided I can't do both. How different was it not having him on the pitch and having to call him Gaffer rather than Muzz?
I struggled for a bit. Because I kept calling him, because we got about 20 nicknames for each other. So I was calling him everything apart from Gaffer. But Muzz made me his talisman, and at the time, I don't think he had the biggest budget in the world, so he kind of needed me to be that leader up top for the team at the, back then. And it was important that he got me in. But it's a shame that at the time, yeah, I know he wasn't proven at the time. If he had a bigger budget and he got these players.
I don't think you'll find a Mansfield fan that will have a bad word to say about Adam Murray's spell as manager. We know that was a transition period, and we look at him now and we are so fucking proud of what he's done.
Yeah.
Like whenever Nigel Clough eventually does decide to move on, might be too much of a leap, but we know at some point in the future, if Adam Murray was announced as Mansfield Town manager again, we'd welcome it, because he's done it at the very top level, and we know now he's changed as a person. He's got that as a game as well, and we don't underestimate the struggle that he would have had going from being on the brink of leaving the club to having to take over and having to be gaffer with all his mates and stuff. That's a tough transition, and we know we had a good crack at it, and we weren't too bad. We were very unlucky not to finish in the playoffs that year. A couple of other good results and maybe a bit of added investment, we might have even done it.
Yeah. The thing is with Muzz, he's so passionate about football, but because of his upbringing, coming from Derby, his tactical knowledge, especially going back down to Eastbourne, he's a different manager to what he was at Mansfield all those years ago. Now he's like a proper gaffer, but he's got a really good style of playing, and he leads by example. So like he can still, even at Eastbourne, like lads were trying to take corners, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Just do it like this." The lads are all looking like, "Oh shit."
He's a wizard. Like you watch some of the Eastbourne are great at putting reels out, and you just watch him, and even though he's put on a few pounds, bless him, and he's definitely got the manager body now rather than the midfielder body. He can still trap a ball and he can still whip it. He's an absolute wizard.
Yeah, he is, and again, his man management's brilliant. He's just, I think, going to Barnsley, West Brom, and then going over to Turkey, he's telling me stories about Dele Alli and stuff. Again, and even when I signed for Eastbourne, I had a message off, Tom Pett, Sean Long, that were at League One in Cheltenham at the time, saying you have got an unbelievable gaffer there. So throughout football, he's got a reputation now, where it's like he's going to be the next best thing. So
he will be back in the Football League at some point. Absolutely will.
Absolutely, he will be, and we've got a great relationship. Being a manager doesn't really appeal to me, but being a coach always does, and I do truly believe one day that we will be united again, and he'll be gaffer somewhere, and hopefully I can be one of his coaches.
Hey Al, I've just had this very brief vision.
Yeah,
Mansfield Town are in the Championship. Nigel Clough has retired. Adam Murray's manager, and there's Matt Green as first team coach. Who knows? Greenie, I'm a little bit conscious of time, so I just want to finish on one last Mansfield thing, and that was obviously coming to your second exit. Muzz departs. The Scotsman comes in.
Yeah.
What was it like under Snaky Steve?
Oh gosh, hang on. Let me just. Do you mind if I stick my charger in quick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's one of those. Do you know what? It really is a thing, Al, isn't it? Listening to how Greenie speaks about Muzz there, it's just it's so good. Honestly, I would love to see that vision come true. Adam Murray's manager.
You can imagine it, can't you?
Skipper's assistant, because he plays a part as well. He's got the Mickey Moore as director of football. Mickey Moore knows the score. Matt Green as first team coach, striker coach. With some of the backroom staff we've got, we'll keep Adam Collin as goalkeeping coach. We'll keep Dave Waldy and a few of the others. We'd be Sam. I can see this now. I'll tell you what. Forget what I keep saying about Paul Warren and Richie Barker coming after.
Yeah.
After
they'll have to
let's get this in. Let's make this work. It's absolutely.
They'll have to wait the turn. They will.
Yeah,
absolutely. Their time will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Their time will come. Oh, it would be insane to see, wouldn't it? And absolutely crazy. Love some of the stories that we've had so far from
And it was
from Matt.
good how honest he was at the end, because when I just talking to him briefly, he were chatting. Oh, it's back now anyway, and we're just saying how it's nice that you're honest stories, Matt, because you have to go through the bad times as well as the good times, don't you? As a footballer and a person.
I do get a sense, Matt, that I did think for a second as soon as I mentioned Snaky Mr. Evans that my battery's gone. I can't talk about that man. We don't like him. It's fine. We don't like him.
Yeah, I tell you what, like he done things with me towards the end. I've got to say, as much as I could sit here and sort of say this, that, and the other, I've got to say towards the end, he did put me in a good situation.
Yeah.
By going to Lincoln, and he stuck to his word.
Hey, what? Steve Evans sticks to his word.
He stuck to his word.
That's the most shocking story I've heard all night. Forget Gary Robertson's hosepipe with his arse. That is that.
He stuck to his word with me in terms of but let me tell you, why he had to stick to his word. So the first session that he comes in, I'll never forget. We were training at somewhere in Leicester, I think. And we finished the training session. I think big man Henderson scores at one end, I score at the other end. All the lads go, I do my finishing at the end, as I always did after training, come walking in. He's there. I'm thinking he's going to turn around and say to me, well done today, want to make you, our number one striker, etc. And he's just looked at me, got, no. So you're Matt Green, yeah? You're the top goal scorer, are you? And I was like, yeah. So you're near the all-time top goal scorer, yeah, at this club. And I was like, yeah. And he's not anymore. Like this. This is true.
Oh.
He's gone, I'm the top goal scorer. I'm the manager. I'm the chairman. I'm everything now. And you answer to me. And he was like, don't ever speak to the chairman again. That is the complete honesty.
Wow.
And after that, then, I thought, right, I hope he's just had a bad day there. I'm going to prove him wrong, as I do. And I started, doing my stuff in training and scoring against, defenders and things like that. And he hated it. He absolutely hated it. Obviously then he buys in Shaq Corhurst from Peterborough. And I'm like, this guy can't even tie my boots up. I watched him in training and I'm like, mate, come on. You ain't really playing this guy instead of me. But he kind of pulled me in and just said, listen, I've had a bid off Coventry City, Lincoln City. This was in January. And they've offered 250 grand and they want to take you. I want you to go. And at this point, I'm like, no way. You are not forcing me out of this club. I just, I remember sort of being sat down and, speaking to Reigns, I think it was at the time. And the whole time, it was just horrible. They just basically made,
just text message.
That's not him. He's not texting you, Ali. Is he saying silence him now? All right, Al. I've seen this Dalton podcast. Get him. Fucking say it's new. He's in the room.
He was horrible. It was a horrible six months. I think I scored a couple of goals, and but he said, right, if you shut up and you don't talk to anyone and you don't tell anyone about this, then I'll let you go to Lincoln at the end of the season and on a free transfer. I'll let you go to Coventry at the end of the season on a free transfer. So, and that's what I had to do. I had to just sit there like a good boy, really, and watch these lads that, to be fair, Danny Rose, good player, but I wanted to play with Rosie,
You and Rosie would have been
I would say
it would have
you'd
been
have
as
worked
close
together
to
well.
you and Reed. It would have been as close to you and Reedy that you would have got, I think.
And Rosie's a great lad as well, you know.
Yeah.
And he wanted to play with me, I think. So it was just Evans being Evans. Like at the end of the day, like no one's bigger than the club, and that's what that's why I had to leave. You know, to have Steve Evans there with his record, with the things that he's done in the game, you know. But I just wasn't. He just didn't like me from the moment he laid eyes on me. He didn't like me. He didn't like what I've done at the club. All I wanted to do was be the all-time top goal scorer. I think I don't know how many goals I'm off it, but you know that's all that was in my mind.
You weren't far. I think you were only 20 odd. Another
Yeah,
couple of seasons you'd have done it.
Well, in the season, when I left Mansfield, if you add up the clubs in the season that I went to, you know, the places, I would have 100% got that. But
is there part of you now which looks back and thinks, I wish I would have mentioned it to Radford or would have tried to fight? Because I think if you had, and that wouldn't have been, that sort of wouldn't have been there, I think you probably still would have been a Mansfield player for another good 5-6 years.
I think, you know, I respected the chairman too much. You know, I still do.
That's fair.
Like, it's at the end of the day, it's you know, I could have gone crying to Hymus. I could have gone to Mark Hemmenberg. I could have gone to so many people upstairs. But the fact is, you got Steve Evans in. He's done what game. Again, I'm no one's bigger than the club. You know, he was sort of whining and dining with the people upstairs and you know, charming them. So there was just I didn't have a leg to stand on, you know, really. It just, I tried to sort of, you know, text a few people upstairs, just, you know, or email them and just say like, listen, like this ain't going to be good for the club eventually. Like this is going to take you a lot longer.
Well, you weren't wrong, were you?
No.
Well, yeah.
We always knew when Evans came in that, you know, it was the big name sort of signing as a manager that we probably needed to sort of get bums on seats and with his record. But we always knew that at some point he would go, and to go in the way that he did, to walk out with, I think, 11 games to go at the end of the season when we were pretty much over the line in the way he did. I'm going to go and work in China, and then 2 days later turns up at Peterborough. Weren't on. Absolute joke of a man.
I knew it. I knew he's a snake. I mean, he used to mutter that he wasn't really happy at Mansfield anyway. Like, he used to mutter that a little bit. So, you know, we were a bit like, well, what you like? I don't like this kind of thing. But it's part of the progression of the club. It's part of the progression of the club, and you know, the way he jumped ship just shows for me, and I don't mind saying it, an absolute shitbag. What he is, to leave the club when you're almost there anyway, it kind of just says that, again, like Peterborough obviously offered him a better deal or offered him more money, like he needs it. He's been doing that his whole career, you know. But again, to show that loyalty to Mansfield, it hurt me as well, even from afar. When I was at Lincoln, I was just like, you've just basically gone there, got me out of the club, and you know, and just left the club like it's nothing really. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like a bit like says everything about the man, to be honest with you. It's a shame that the club had to go through that, but at the end of the day, look on the positive side, look where they are now, look at the process. But yeah, I always called that. I always said it's going to take you a good 10 years after that guy's gone, or it's going to take you a good 10 years, you know, after that guy's gone, or that guy, I wouldn't trust him. And I did try to mutter it to a few people, but again, like, who am I? You know I've scored a lot of goals for the club, but you know, I'm one player, and the club.
I'll tell you who you are. You're Matt fucking Green. You're a club legend, mate. So you should have got in with that attitude. I'm Matt Green. I'm this. I'm that. No, only joking. Let's end on a couple of funnies. We're gonna do your funny story on Scott Shearer. Hopefully, he's not gonna have a hose pipe shoved up his arse.
Wow.
We'll put you to the test, and then we'll find out a few quick fire ones, and we'll let you go off into the night, and we'll start the campaign to get the Matt Green stand up and running and the statue erected, which it should have been by now anyway. So Matt Green, Scott Shearer, did he have a hose pipe up his arse?
Scott Shearer did not have a hose pipe. He used to do two things. One of them was called the Kit Kat. And, you know, do you want 2 fingers or 4 fingers? You know, it was your choice. Yeah, you can imagine where.
Gary Roberts would have been so delighted.
Gary Roberts all over it. I mean, he would have been.
He'd lubed up in preparation.
Oh, he would have been all over it. And the other thing he used to do, which was pretty crazy, is that he had IBS, Shears did, irritable bowel syndrome. So he would just have to go toilet go shit whenever he could. And every morning without fail, there'd be a picture in the chat. Lads, I couldn't hold it. And then there'd just be, you know, him sort of squat down with his camera, sort of, you know, by the motorway. You can hear the cars going past.
Yeah.
And then it'd just go, ooh. And let me go. You know, it was, he would just take a shit absolutely anywhere, that guy. So yeah, I could probably think of a few more crazy than that, but Shears was up there for me. Gary Roberts was up there for me. And yeah, it was great times, great lads as well. Good lads as well. You wouldn't get those lads in footy anymore.
It's such a shame, really. Do you know what, Alan? That whole Scott Shearer thing, that puts Adi Yusuf's we on the side of the pitch in whatever game it was to absolute shame, doesn't it?
Andy got into trouble for that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Dude, he had a wee.
Yeah. He didn't even go. Do you know what it is? Adi is he's totally anti all that as well. So for him to get caught fresh like that, it would have hurt.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. Just a reminder, though, on all those stories that the views are solely those of the individuals and not those of Mansfield Matters. Got to get that legal bit out there. Greenie, you know, we've had a fantastic 2 hours, 13 minutes with you. It's been absolutely unreal. I could sit here for 2 days, let alone 2 hours. We have to finish, though, by putting you to the test. Alan knows what's coming now. We pre-warned you a little bit earlier on that this was coming. So it's time for the It's All About You quiz. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what it is. Every single time we do Stag Stories, we put a quiz on for our guests. It's 10 questions up against the clock, and it's all about your time, about both of your spells at the club. The aim is to score as highly as possible in the quickest time as possible. For every wrong answer, and this is the important bit, it's plus 5 seconds to your total time. However, every time you say pass, it's plus 10 seconds. So it's worth a go, even if you don't know.
Right. Just have a guess, Matt. I fell foul of that one. Just have a guess.
Look after me here, Al.
Yeah.
For context, Alan will be muted, so he can't answer. He's going to play along to see how many he gets. Let's have a look at what your former teammates. Now, Paul Cox has played this quiz twice, mainly because I felt sorry for him after the first time, because he scored 5 in 2 minutes 24 the first time around and struggled. Muzz got 6 in 1 minute 54 when he did it. Martin Riley 7 in 1 minute 54. Louis Briscoe 7 in 143. I think that's it. And then Coxey second time round 9 in 142. I don't.
I'm going to need a double take then. If
we'll have you on again, Matt.
I can neither confirm nor deny whether there was any bribery taking place for said.
Yeah, I bet he did. Little brown envelope
for that. And I will give you a little bit of an extra heads up as well, that the answer for question 10 is quite open-ended, because obviously you are famous for a certain goal, right? And there is commentary which is on the clip, which is from Steve-O, but there's also commentary which Cam, from me, seems to enjoy playing over and over again. And all of us at Mansfield Matters have got a poster with that commentary on. And basically, you've got to try and the question 10 will be, I will do a bit of that commentary and you've got to try and finish off. So I've basically given you a point already. All right. So I've given you a head start.
Gosh. Yeah.
No pressure, Matt.
Happy with that? So happy with that so far?
Let's just go for it off the cuff. Let's roll.
Okay, right. So I'll give you a little thing as well, that your time will start after I've asked the first question, and it will end after you've given your answer to the last. Matt, are you ready to play the It's All About You quiz?
Yes.
Let's play. Against which team did you make your Stags debut?
Stag's debut was against Luton.
Excluding added time and being substituted off, how many league minutes were played before you unlocked your goal-scoring account? 287, 297, or 307?
307.
You were one of many absent with a horrendous sickness bug that contributed to the Stags failing to qualify for the FA Cup first round, losing 5-0 to who?
Fleetwood.
You served under 3 different Stags managers. Name one of the 3.
Adam Murray.
On to the conference winning season, which also saw a heroic FA Cup run. Name one of the sides the Stags knocked out on the way to a round 3 tie with Liverpool.
Lincoln City.
You took home the match ball with a hat-trick in an 8-1 drubbing over Barrow. What did boss Paul Cox take home?
New car.
Having proven his goal-scoring attributes against Wrexham, Alan Marriott spent the second half of Restay's testimonial up front. Who replaced him in goal?
Lee Stevenson.
After returning to the Stags in the summer of 2015, against which of your old conference foes did you score your first Football League goal after a 2-year wait?
League foes.
Conference foe. We spoke about them earlier on.
Luton.
Randy Wands is an anagram of which of your former strike partners? Randy Wands.
Randy Wands. One of my former strike partners. Reedy?
And question 10. What happened next? As Marriott launches forward again, Reed is the target. Flicked on.
To Green.
Stop the clock. Oh, some good answers there, Alan.
Yeah.
Whilst I do the totting up,
I think was the Randy one Danny Rose?
Of course it was.
I knew it was there. I was thinking, oh my god. Oh, should have. It was either Rosie or Reedy. I was like,
Yeah, there were some good answers there, Matt.
oh, I done all right. Are you happy with that, Al?
Yeah, I think you must have at least 7, at least.
Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Well, let's find out, shall we? I can tell you, Matt. 6.
Ooh.
So it's above average. I'll take that.
In a total time, which puts you above Adam, on a par with Adam Murray,
Okay.
but below Briscoe and Riley.
Okay, yeah, them two, they're two clever cogs. They could, yeah.
In a total time of 2 minutes and 12, so you just below Adam Murray only on time.
Okay.
Like that.
But it's not a bad effort, mate. Well done. Well done for remembering all of them. Right, we're going to let you go in just a minute. First and foremost, though, we've got to ask the most important question ever asked to a footballer, and it is, Alan Wilson, have you got a bit of paper next to you, Al?
No, I haven't, Craig. Sorry.
You got one quickly to hand?
Just a minute. We go.
Alan, I want you to write down what you think the answer is going to be.
Hold on. Yeah. There's some here. Yeah.
Greeny, don't answer until Alan's written it down.
Okay.
What's your favourite biscuit? So, Alan, write it down, what you think it's going to be, and we'll see if Alan guesses it right.
I think Matt's bit's going to be.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I like to dip it for a few seconds, Al, not just a one dip. Put it that way.
I know which one it's not, so that's fine, and that means you've gone up in my estimation again. Alan, what have you written down?
Well, if he likes to dip it a couple of times, it's got to be an hobnob.
Yeah, chocolate.
Thank you.
There you go.
Got to be.
Absolutely nailed it. Brilliant.
There's not many biscuits you can dunk twice, and that's one of them.
Yeah. No, chocolate hobnob all day. Give me a cut of them and a coffee. I'm happy.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Greedy, we're going to give you the last word in just a second, but before we do, what are your overall takeaways from your time at Mansfield Town?
Best years of my career, hands down. Best fans, that I've played under, and I've played in front of some big crowds, and genuinely, you know, my favourite club.
Greeny, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight. Really appreciate you giving your time. This is the longest live stream and podcast we have ever done, and we could keep going again and again and again. We're going to have to do one in the future where we're all together in a room and get a few of the other lads in as well. Whenever you do speak to Muzz next, do send him our best. We really love having you on tonight as well. And that is all we've got time for. But the last word doesn't go to me. It goes to, as always, our guest, who we're going to put front and centre on our stream. Matt, your message, your final thoughts on your time at Mansfield Town to all of those fans that have taken you in and made you a club legend. Matt Green, round off your stag story.
Thank you so much, everybody, for getting behind me over those years, for taking me in as one as your own. I'm glad I could repay you back in goals, and you know, the welcome back, you know, is will sit with me forever.
The words there of a beautiful man in Matt Green. I called it on the commentary. Go and listen to it. We've really appreciated Matt's stories tonight. Alan Wilson's been alongside me as well. Thank you, all of you, to watch it, who've been watching tonight and who've been sitting through this and listening to it. We'll definitely have more from Matt in the future. Make sure you follow us on all things social media at MTFC Matters to find out when we're next going to be live and find out more about old stag stories as well. A man who arrived on loan. You say you should never fall in love with your loan players. Well, what I say to that in the case of Matt Green is that's absolute bollocks. Fall in love with him 1,000,001 times, because he is the definition of a legend, and it's been a pleasure hearing his stories tonight. From me, from Alan, from Matt, and from all of the Mansfield Matters team, good night. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon. And why not spend this weekend watching the DVD of when the Stags became champions? Because I tell you what, I watched it earlier, and I've only just about stopped crying. What a season, what a time, what a man. Good night.